Hey everybody, how's it going? My name is Storytelling Vlaire, and I'm here to give you guys a storytelling review. And the Doomsday Clock is upon us. Starting today, we are 11 hours away from midnight. Of course, I'm referring to DC's Doomsday Clock, written by Geoff Johns, and the art is done by Gary Frank. My favorite comic book team right now. They have done Superman Secret Origins, Batman Earth 1, and Shazam, the New 52 sub-story. They are a phenomenal team. Geoff Johns is my favorite writer because he can touch any character in the DC universe and figure out a way to make them interesting, relevant, and unique. And I think that's great. And I think it's awesome that he's going to be the one that takes on this huge burden to write a sequel for Watchmen. Now, of course, anybody can hold a real discussion of whether or not Watchmen needed a sequel. Some people would argue yes, some people would argue no. I respect both decisions. I'm curious to see what they do, and I like the pitch. It's not so much about bringing the Watchmen back, it's more about telling a story between hope and despair. Superman and Dr. Manhattan. Two characters who represent two different things talking. I think that's a really cool idea, and I'm excited to see where it goes. It also has a lot of commentary about things that are going on in our world, a lot like Watchmen did in the late 1880s. 1880s, yes, because Watchmen came out in the 1880s. 1980s. But anyway, before I go any further, the first part of this review is going to be spoiler-free just because I want to give you guys my thoughts really quick on how I feel about the story, and I think you guys should definitely pick it up because right now this is the biggest event in comic books right now. There are commercials advertising this on TV. I saw it yesterday. I was like, really? That bad? And you know what was awesome too? There's no advertisements in this book whatsoever, so DC is serious about publishing this. So I'm excited, and so far, this is a great start. Now, of course, if you haven't read Watchmen, then you're going to be very confused because this takes place 7 years afterwards, and you get the aftermath of where the story left off. The world is going back into hell, and it's up to our heroes to save it. And inevitably, Superman is going to come into the picture, and Dr. Manhattan, both him and Dr. Manhattan are going to have some sort of debate at some point throughout this story. And in this issue, they really plant the seeds on how all of that stuff is going to happen, and they do a phenomenal job with that. A lot of returning characters come back. I'm not going to go into too much details about what characters, but characters that are familiar come back, and we're introduced to some new ones, which is cool. Also, the story is formatted like the original Watchmen story with a 3x3 grid, so that's cool. And Geoff Johns said that in the creation of this, he created a rule book on how to write a Watchmen sequel. And you can really see that both him and Gary Frank have a wonderful friendship and a wonderful kind of chemistry when it comes to coming up with comic books, because there are moments where the art complements what's being said in the dialogue and vice versa. And that was something that the original author of Watchmen, Alan Moore, and the original artist, Dave Gibbons, had perfectly. They had perfect chemistry, and they were able to come up with Watchmen. So now we have, Geoff Johns and Gary Frank, and they're coming up with this, and they have a great friendship, and you can see that in the art and in the text, that they have a wonderful relationship in there. You see a moment where they talk about you need to find your local police and contact them or something. That's what the dialogue says. And then you see a guy pull on a police officer's neck. And it's kind of cool because that's what Watchmen kind of did. There were always moments where the dialogue would say something and then it would show you exactly that. It was a very unique thing to Watchmen. So I'm glad to see that that makes a return into Doomsday Clock, its sequel. Now, there's not much else I can really say other than if you haven't picked this up, please pick this up. If you went to a comic book store and you didn't walk out with this, shame on you. Shame on you. You should check this out. See if you like it, at least. You don't have to stick around for all 12 issues, but see if this is your, cup of tea. Of course, if you haven't read Watchmen, then this will be confusing. What's nice is WB has a motion comic that you can go watch right now, and you can get caught up on the entire story. You don't even have to watch a summary. I wouldn't recommend a summary because it doesn't do justice to the story. The story is character-driven, not plot-driven. So a summary just doesn't really do it anything. But anyway, aside from that, let's go into spoilers. So, warning, spoiler alert, spoiler alert, spoiler alert. I'm going to spoil Watchmen and I'm going to spoil Doomsday Clock. So you have been warned. If you want to avoid spoilers, I would leave right now. But before that, I would leave a like, comment, and subscribe. But yeah, so if you want to avoid spoilers, go ahead and leave. Everybody else, though, if you're ready for a discussion, I'm ready for a discussion. Ooh, I want to talk about this book. So, spoiler alert, Rorschach is back. As you know, in Watchmen, at the very end, he died. And Jeff Johns actually came out recently and showed that that Rorschach was back. And everyone lost their mind, including me. But I was afraid. Everybody was talking about, did Dr. Manhattan bring him back to life? Did he feel guilty? Did Rorschach get teleported to somewhere else? What happened? How did Walter Kovac survive? He didn't. The legacy of Rorschach has lived on and has been passed on to someone else. Someone else has taken up the mantle of what it is to be Rorschach. And I am so happy that that is the case. Anyway, moving on. So Rorschach breaks out two criminals, can't really remember their names, but they're going to be crucial to the plot in future issues. And he brings them to the Owl Cave, where Dan Dryberg used to live, and he has the giant, he has Archimedes and his old Night Owl suit, and it's really cool. It's great to be back there. And we're reintroduced to another character, Ozymandias. And as you know, in the story, there is a huge witch hunt looking for him. I believe it's like $20,000 for his head, something like that. I think it should have been $2 billion, but but everyone's looking for him. They have discovered the Great Lie. And as you know, if you've read Watchmen, the Great Lie is basically Ozymandias tricked the world into peace, and Rorschach left the seeds to that plan's inevitable downfall. So obviously someone must have read that journal. Which it was actually said that Seymour, the guy at the very end of the story, he read it, he published it, and then mysteriously died 2 months later. Wonder how that happened. But anyway, so we're reintroduced to Ozymandias, and he is not doing well. He has a brain tumor, and he's dying. He's on his final days. This story really is, it's not the end is nigh, the end is here. And that's especially the case for Ozymandias. These are his final days, and you can tell because it seems like his sanity's a little off. I don't know about you guys. There were moments where he really composed himself, and he really was the Ozymandias that we knew. But at the same time, there were moments where his personality cracked, and he was laughing, and, yada, yada, yada. Which, my theory... Does anyone else think that he might turn into Joker? Am I the only one that thinks that? Like, I know that's a stretch, and that might be an insult to the character, but after seeing Gary Frank's cover art for, with the Joker putting on lipstick, and he has, like, the Ozymandias lipstick and the Ozymandias perfume or something like that, but he's putting on the makeup and everything, I had to look at that picture again and think to myself, is that gonna be Ozymandias? Could he be one of the three Jokers that popped up in Gotham? I don't know. That's crazy to think, though. So, who knows? Is he going to go insane? And I think that's actually kind of a great idea. Is the pinnacle of humanity, of hope, was Ozymandias in the last story. And in this one, hope is dying in the Watchmen universe. And what better way to kind of show that than by showing Ozymandias' sanity decline? I think that's a really cool idea. But yeah, there's really not much else to the story. We get a nice little tease of Superman at the very end. We get a little nightmare sequence with him, which, one thing I thought was a little weird, Superman's parents both died at the same time. I hope they didn't die when he was a kid at prom. I think that was just kind of an exaggeration. Like, that was their death at the same time of his prom. I like to think that maybe that dream came up from Dr. Manhattan. Maybe Dr. Manhattan was poking at him, because Superman himself says he's never had a nightmare before. So maybe that's Dr. Manhattan's way of poking at Superman. But we're gonna have to see. Yeah, I thought it was a little weird. It was just like, oh yeah, both my parents died at the same time, and I was just like, I'm not a big fan of that. But that's just a nitpick. But anyway, the story looks like the story is going to be about Ozymandias, Rorschach, and these two other convicts looking for God, aka Dr. Manhattan, and where has he gone? And inevitably, it'll lead into the DC universe somehow. I can't wait to see how that's done. But yeah, guys, that's basically the end of those spoilers, and I'm so excited and I'm so happy. Anyway, Doomsday Clock has my highest recommendation. If there's anything that you should be reading from DC right now, it is this. Of course, Metal is doing great. It's phenomenal and everything. This feels like this is just going to be a great story that'll be able to stand on its own, and I'm happy that that's going to be the case. I hope that that's going to be the case, because at the end of the day, this needs to be a good story about hope versus despair. So I hope you guys go out and check out this issue. And I hope whoever it is that did pick up the issue, I hope you're enjoying it right now. And I hope you are so happy that this is finally out and we can talk about it. Anyway, I hope you guys have a wonderful day. If you can subscribe, leave a comment, like this video, I would really appreciate that. It would help the channel out and help me out. I'd really appreciate that. But anyway, I hope you guys have a beautiful day, and I'll see you soon. Peace!